Hey guys, and welcome back. I was going to do a video about our budget for June and our goals in that, but first I needed to make this video, and that is a video explaining why we decided to go back into debt. We've been completely debt-free for a couple of years, apart from a car repair that would take us 2 months to pay off or something like that, but not like a payment schedule and not consumer debt that would take us time to pay off for just normal things, not emergencies. But we did decide to take on a payment, and so I wanted to explain our reasoning and why we are not beating ourselves up for taking that step backward. So in November, my husband started a new job, and that meant a slight pay increase. Before, our income was a few $1,000s, maybe $10,000 below the poverty line, and now our income has gone above the poverty line. Now we're just, I guess, lower, middle, median income, I don't know. Of course, that doesn't translate to like a lot week to week, but it did make a difference in our overall budget. And so our goal had been to maybe start saving some money to buy a new to us car. And that kind of got pushed forward because, well, to backtrack a little bit, we bought our last van in 2021, and we bought it really quickly, and we bought it in cash because the van before that was just, we took it into the mechanic to see what was causing the issues we were having, thinking that it was probably the transmission, because in Dodge vans the transmission tends to go bad at like 150,000 miles. We'd had a Dodge van before that and had replaced the transmission in it, so we thought that's what it was. And so we took it to a mechanic who we trusted, and he said, yeah, the transmission is bad, but also the engine is bad. And we knew that we were losing a lot of oil, but all in, it was gonna cost like $7,000 to fix that van, and we didn't have $7,000, so we got rid of it, just scrapped it. It wasn't worth anything. And really quickly, in the height of craziness after COVID, found a van that it ran better, but it wasn't in any better shape than the one we had gotten rid of for, I think we paid $3,500 for it. And it, like I said, it ran well, but we could never get it inspected. We ended up tagging it as a historic vehicle because that meant it didn't have to have an inspection. And the reason that we couldn't get it inspected is because not all of the seat belts worked properly. Other things like the exhaust wasn't what it should be for like emissions and things like that. And we probably should have made different decisions in that time, but we did what we did. We bought that car, and when we bought it, it had over 200,000 miles on it, but it was a diesel engine. It was gonna run forever, right? So we've been running that. It also never had air conditioning. We haven't had air conditioning in a big van since before Caleb was born, and he's 12. So in like a car or whatever, you can roll down the windows and that makes the air move, and in a big van like that, the rear windows don't open. In the first two big vans that we had, they did like pop open, but they don't roll down, of course. And so in the front you would have this air blowing, but in the seats behind that it would get really hot. And so in that diesel one, the one we bought in 2021, the back windows didn't open at all. It had been a school bus. It had like a bus door where you would like crank it and the door would open, and kids would go through there. Whenever we bought it, it didn't have a front seat. It actually didn't have any seats in it whenever we bought it, which is why the seat belts weren't functioning properly. So we put a thermometer last summer in the back with the kids, and it was getting to like 115 in the back whenever we would have to come to a stop if there was ever construction or a long red light. So it wasn't safe. It just was not safe, and we felt trapped. We couldn't do anything. We knew at what my husband was making before, we couldn't afford a payment, and we couldn't afford to save for a van. So we were just making do. So whenever he got this job in November, it took us a little bit to kind of catch up and figure out what we were going to pay ourselves, because he's an independent contractor, and so we get to choose what we make and how hard he wants to work and all of that. And so early this spring, some things happened to that big van. A couple of the seat belts broke completely. It was needing significant front end work, which if you know anything about like 12 and 15 passenger vans, that's common. They're so big that like the steering and suspension and stuff, like tie rod ends and control arms and those kinds of things, they just go bad pretty frequently. So we had done those last spring or the spring before. There's a video on my channel where we went on a train ride and we were borrowing our church's van because we were having that stuff done on the big van. And it needed tires, it needed a lot of like routine stuff, but we just were debating, do we continue to put little bits of money into this car when we know that long term it's not going to function like we need it to? And so we talked about different options, waiting and saving, but that was going to be probably a couple of years until we could save enough money. And in the meantime, of course, prices are going to probably continue to rise. Or did we want to take out a personal loan, an auto loan? What were the interest rates? And so while we were talking about this, a friend of ours offered to finance a loan for us interest-free. And so that seemed like the best option to us. We were able to borrow money from him just for the purchase price, and then we paid like all of the taxes, titling, inspection, all the transfer fees, the sales tax, all that stuff from our savings. So we borrowed $13,999 from a friend for a 2018 Chevy van. It's beautiful. Every time I get in it, I feel like I am in the lap of luxury. It has heat and air in the front and the back. All the seat belts function properly. It's fully inspected. We know that it's safe for our family. And so we don't regret taking a loan, even though it kind of set us back a little bit. So our loan agreement is for 35 months at $400, and our goal is to pay it off a little bit sooner, as we just are able to maybe put an extra $100 a month or something toward it and get that done. But of course, I would encourage you guys to be debt-free if at all possible, but also they know that there are times that the thing that makes the most sense is to borrow money for a short period of time and pay it back for something that is a necessity, and we felt like this was a necessity for the safety of our family. So anyway, I wanted to tell you guys that, because if I do a video on our budget, I feel like without having a mortgage and things like that, that our bills amount is going to look really high. And that is because we now have this van payment that's, you know, $100 a week basically. So I just want to share it with you in all transparency and tell you where we are at now. And so anyway, that's what's up, and I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you'll come back and join me there. Bye.